I have become really good at evaluating risk.
You choose this profession because you love it.
We can have a podcast every day and I'll talk about mortgages every day for the rest of my life. 99% of the brokers want to do the best for their clients. When you go to the bank, that person is representing the bank.
Okay.
They're not representing you. As a mortgage broker, I can actually, this is what I love to do. I want you to make a decision based on pros and cons. When you study basic economics, you know that if the demand is high and there's not a lot of supply, prices go higher.
Up.
That's what happens in Canada. A person came to my office. Camilo, what was the question, Murillo?
Give me the lowest interest rates.
What's going to happen is that if you do the math, you'll do one more monthly payment per year.
Okay.
I didn't make those statistics. 97% of businesses within 10 years fail. But if you're able to shorten the number of years, you end up paying less interest in the bank.
I see your point.
What makes the world go round is top about that cha-ching sound like we count bills by the pound is.
So, welcome to another episode of ROI Mindset Podcast, the podcast made by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. I am Murillo Tavares, your host, and today I have the pleasure of talking with Camilo Rodriguez. Camilo is the founder of MortgagesLab, a successful mortgage brokerage company in BC, British Columbia. He also was born and raised in Bogota, Colombia. His journey in Canada is unique. He moved to Canada 27 years ago, and he's also an electrical engineering, which makes me believe he really likes numbers. He lived in the United States and France. I didn't know that. And he started his career in Canada at TD Canada Trust, one of the biggest banks in Canada. He enjoys traveling with his family and watching soccer with his son Pablo and his daughter Camila. So Camilo, welcome to the show.
Murillo, this is an amazing introduction. Thank you very much. Thank you. Super happy to be here.
We are also happy to have you here. So I could not start different, right? Because you left your country 27 years ago. And I know that moving to Canada was one of the best things you did in your life. You shared with me. So what made you fall in love with this country?
Before I tell you what made me fall in love with Canada, I want to tell you one thing, because I think it's very relevant for entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Which is, I have become really good at evaluating risk. Mm-hmm. Because people say, when I was back in home, say, moving to Canada, it's risky. Why? Because you don't have contacts, you don't have your parents, you don't have your family, you don't have your relationship. It's a new language. What are you doing, Camilo? But I've learned to evaluate the risk based on two outcomes. It's like a coin. One is, if I do take this outcome, what might happen? But also nobody evaluates what is the risk if I do not take the outcome.
Perfect.
And I right now know by a fact that it would be riskier for me to stay in Colombia than to move to Canada.
100%. That's
So the reason why I love Canada is because Canada gave me that opportunity. And everybody who has moved to Canada or any Canadian that has had the opportunity to live abroad, they know that living in another country is is a blessing, because you start to compare your own culture with the culture of the new country. And if you ask me who Camilo is right now, I'm not the Colombian that came to Canada 27 years ago. I'm not a Canadian that was born here. I'm somebody in the middle, kind of the middle, and that causes a lot of problems for entrepreneurs and for people moving to Canada. And let's face it, Canada imports 2% of the population every year. I've been living here 27 years, so on average, 54% of the population in the last has come from another country. And we all have this issue that we're kind of in the middle, and for a lot of people, it's an unresolved issue. And because I'm an engineer and I love to solve problems, even psychological ones, I realized that for me, Canada is like my dad. It's like the values, the hard work,
The
discipline,
foundation.
the discipline, right? Colombia is like my mom. Is the nurturing, the love, the family, the closeness, the get together. Who I love the most? Both my parents. If they get a divorce, who are you gonna stay with? Oh, I cannot decide that.
Right.
I love them both. Both have pros and cons.
I see.
And I'm right here in the middle. I'm learning from my dad, Canada, with many positive things. There's some other things that I don't agree and I disagree. Even with my dad, similar with my mom. I learn a lot of things from my mom, but some things I like, I don't like. And at the end, I'm here looking at both options and being more objective on my life. And that's what I love, being Canadian and being Canada.
And your transition from electrical engineer to mortgages, how did that transition happen? What made you change paths? Because I know you're dealing with numbers, but it's a totally different kind of profession, right?
What made me change paths was, again, risk. For me, it was riskier to stay as an electrical engineer. And I'll tell you why. Even though financially you can do both very well in both professions, and sometimes electrical engineers can make a lot of money, also on mortgage brokering. But for me, it was riskier because my heart was not into electrical engineering, the technical stuff. I wasn't as passionate as I am in mortgages and business right now. If you want me, we can have a podcast every day, and I'll talk about mortgages every day for the rest of my life.
Right.
But I wasn't studying electrical engineering details as I was doing with other things related to real estate.
I didn't expect that. So what you're saying is basically you choose this profession because you love it.
So, a very good question. Nobody loves mortgages. Nobody. When you're a small kid, everybody wants to be a firefighter or maybe
Soccer player,
or they want to be an entrepreneur and be a billionaire. But nobody says, "Oh, when I grow old, I want to be a mortgage broker." Nobody, and still there's a lot of people. But what happened with mortgage brokering is that I started studying it, I started learning about it, and I started to see the effects that it has on people, on families, on the net worth of a family. And I fell in love with that because when you are, for example, being a mortgage broker has to do with sales as well. When you're in sales, you're supposed to give gifts to your clients. And for me, it's something amazing because I do my job and I receive gifts from clients because people feel the love, the value, and the impact that your work is creating on a family. And that's what I fell in love with this.
I really like this answer. So, and I still believe, despite of the fact you have a passion for that, what is the most common misconception people have about mortgage brokers? Because I know it's a regulated profession, but some people, they do not trust much on mortgage brokers.
Yes.
Right?
So when I was the president of the Canadian Mortgage Broker Association in BC, when I was the president, I was shocked because I never realized that, I never found out that people didn't trust mortgage brokers.
Right.
Because most people trust me, and I assume that everybody should trust mortgage brokers. But I realized that, like in any profession, name one profession. I'm going to pick on accountants. Are there bad apples doing accounting? Yeah.
Every profession, I would say.
There should be. Lawyers, prime ministers, I don't know, politicians, whoever. It doesn't really matter. And mortgage brokering is not the exception. So, yes, there is bad apples. And because they manage money, they could harm people. And when there is a person or a family that is harmed by a mortgage broker, and again, this happens with any industry, not only with mortgage broker, for some reason, this gets exploded a lot, like it's talked about, or it's, I don't know, it's marketing becomes really powerful on those things. Or let's say other industries like newspapers may profit a lot on views and things like that because of that. And that creates the illusion that the industry is somehow different. But I've I've known thousands of mortgage brokers in the 3 provinces that we operate. We operate in BC, Alberta, and Ontario. And I can tell you, knowing people, looking at 99% of the brokers want to do the best for their clients. They're good people. It's just that when you have bad apples, like if a mortgage broker does a good mortgage for a person, that person may tell their brother, their sister, their cousin, maybe 2 or 3 people, and that's it. But if that person does something wrong with somebody else, they go into the media, and then maybe the whole country will see that. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the biggest misconception.
Right. No, I totally understand. It's more like a misconception based on some few bad apples.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Which happens in any profession, I would say. Sometimes even doctors, right? They have these issues. So people avoid certain hospitals, certain
or they don't
lawyers,
or they do a bad job, not because they want to do it on purpose, but because they are overworked. Sometimes it's not even with intention, but the fact is that even doctors may harm a person.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they have too many patients.
Exactly.
Right?
It is. We are all humans, right?
Yeah, we're humans. We're just here to learn.
And a question. So you worked at TD Canada Trust, a big bank in Canada.
Yes.
What made you decide to start your own business instead of continue at a bank or working for someone else? Because you could build a career, right, working for a bank in Canada. I imagine 20 years ago, it could be extremely powerful. What made you say, hey, do you know what? I can keep going. I can define my journey.
What made me switch was a concept that I've talked about whenever I speak in public, in groups and everything. I talk about this, and people don't understand it or don't see it until I explain it. And that is when you go to the bank, okay? And by the way, I love banks. Banks have, and Canadian banks are amazing. Like they're so strong and resilient and everything. But when you go to the bank and you talk to a bank representative and you're talking about their mortgage, that person is representing the bank.
Okay.
They're not representing you. And even though that person, I'm assuming that has a good heart and wants to do the best for you as a client, they could never say something like, the mortgage that I am proposing has something that you should be aware of, that maybe this other bank does better or does not have. Because the moment he says that, he gets fired. Because you're recommending a competition, a product from the competition. So you don't have the liberty to speak your mind. You have restrictions based on your employment contract. As a mortgage broker, I can actually, this is what I love to do, is I tell you 3 options. These are the rates, and okay, these are the pros of each option, and these are the negatives of the option. And people say, well, Camilo, what is the best? I say, well, I'm just disclosing everything to you because I want you to make a decision based on pros and cons. But is there the best mortgage? Is there the best anything? No, that's a concept that doesn't exist. There is the best solution for a person, the best solution for a family, but there doesn't exist the best product. Right? The best mortgage, everybody has pros and cons. But when you go directly, going back to the question, when you go directly to the bank, that person cannot tell you what is wrong about that product or cannot recommend a better option on another lender. And the way I found that out is because I was in that situation when I was at TD Bank. I could see other mortgages that I go, well, that one is better for my client. And
you could not say anything.
What do I do? And no, I actually, because the way I've been raised, I actually told people, hey, you know what? It's going to be weird, but look at this option. And then tell me if you want to stay with that option or you want to still go with me. And it was eye-opening because when I did those things, even though the client could recognize that the product was better elsewhere, not everybody, but some of those clients decided to place the mortgage with me because I was open on my approach.
Perfect.
Right? So I understood that. I was transparent. I understood that from early on, and that's the way I like to present options to clients.
And then you started MortgagesLab, which
Yes.
I think was a huge step in your life. So for people that might be listening to us right now, at the beginning, there are so many doubts in our minds, so many questions that we don't have the answers, especially in your entrepreneurial journey,
Yes.
right? So what was your biggest fear when starting MortgagesLab as an entrepreneur? Because you dropped your position at the bank and you started your own business. What kind of thoughts you had in mind back in time?
So I did it in stages. I dropped my position at the bank to become a broker, and I worked for a brokerage, and I wasn't the owner. I was just an agent for that brokerage.
Right.
And then later I started my own brokerage.
Okay.
So my way of thinking from bank to the brokerage was what I just discussed. The conflict of interest that a person has going directly with the bank, because that person cannot give you
best
their
offers.
mind, cannot speak their mind. Okay, it could be the best offer, but how do you know? How do you know?
Right.
The second is when I started my own brokerage. You said that sometimes you have you have doubts. No, everything is a doubt, like everything. And was I scared? I couldn't sleep. For 3 months, I could not sleep. I would go to bed at 11 thinking about, should I do this or should I not? And then woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Should. I want to do it, but I can't. And I'll tell you why I can't. It's because I like numbers. And when I was going to start my business, I did okay. My projected revenue and all the expenses that I had to do and all the things that I had to do. And I built my list. And it was a big Excel sheet that I should still have someplace in my drive. And when I added and subtracted everything, it was blood all over it. Like
Oh, no.
red. For how long? For many months in the future, if sometimes even years. So I go, how does people do this? And then I go, well, they raise capital. And then I didn't have the guts to go and ask my brother, my father, my friends, the people who trusted me for capital, because what if I lose it? And they are the people that I love to hang out with.
Right.
I don't have the nerve, I don't have the guts to do that, right? At that time, I didn't have to. So I said, but then I go, but I want to, and then there is blood on the river, on the sea. So I went back and forth for 3 months, until I think God talks to me with books, with ideas that He plants in my head, and I read a book. And they were talking about palliative care. So when people die, basically, the last months or weeks when a person dies. So this person was telling that they ask people when they're going to die, what do they regret the most? And every single one of them always regrets the things they didn't do. They never regret the things that they did. They said, yeah, it was a mistake and it was silly of me to do it and I was but they never regret. I said, well, it's the past, whatever. But if they didn't do something, they regret it to the core. And I know myself, and I know if I'm dying many years in the future, and I go, did I start my own business? No. Oh, and I'm going to die regretting that. And for me, that was the highest in my ranking system of risks. Is one of my highest risks. When I die, I want to die saying, you know what? I got to here. I tried the best I could. Oh, I'm going to go in peace. That's the way I want to die.
I see your point.
So I go, holy crap. So and this is honest truth, I started MortgagesLab. And this goes against every single podcast and everything, thinking I was going to fail. And it's dangerous because imagine you start something thinking you're going to fail. Sometimes you go that route. And right now, I started in 2010. This is 15 years ago.
15 years ago, look at that.
We are super happy.
Solid.
Oh, and another statistic for those of you who want to be entrepreneurs. Because I don't know why, but this motivates me. It has, for some people, it will demotivate them, but that motivates them. I read, if you go and search online or use ChatGPT, Statistics Canada, how many businesses are open, not even profitable, open, after 10 years that they started in Canada? Brillo, can I ask you just
I
to guess the
imagine
number?
very little.
Just guess the number.
I would say 15%.
15%. So you say it's 15%. I hope all the audience pick a number. Come on, guys, pick a number.
Right.
So I'll tell you what the number is. 3% of
Look at that.
businesses. So every year,
Extremely low.
all the businesses that get open. So my main objective, so I know that a lot of people want to go into business to become billionaires. That's the new thing, especially new generations. Everybody wants to be a billionaire. Everyone wants to be a Jeff Bezos or a
Zuckerberg.
or whatever, or Elon Musk, right?
Right.
Sorry. But when I started my business, I wanted to be standing 10 years later. That was my main. So I made a lot of decisions. So I was standing 10 years later.
Camilo, let me just make a comment here, because what you said is, if you don't grow, you don't survive. Look at the pandemic. How many businesses did not survive? Because if you have a small company, it might give you the impression that you are safe because you manage a small company. It's just you. You make a 200K yearly and you're happy, but you're not growing. And what the competitor is doing, they are growing, they're expanding. And when something happens in the world, and we cannot imagine that the world is something extremely stable, the first business that do not survive are the small businesses, because they do not have cash flow, for example, or they are not big enough to survive. Imagine you are in the ocean, right? And you have two options. You can be in a small boat, or you can be in a big cruise. I would prefer to be in the big cruise because the ocean might be extremely calm, and it's okay if you are in a small boat, right? You're gonna survive. But the moment the ocean starts shaking, if your company is not big enough, your little boat, your small boat is gonna flip, right? And everything is gonna collapse. So what you're saying is amazing, because you grew over time, but you stay calm enough to keep the good practices, build a good foundation, and you have been in the business for that long. And that's amazing. It's a successful story, right?
No, thank you very much. For me, it's like playing a board game. Right now, today, in 2025, we are starting a new game, actually. So you say, oh, Camilo, you've won several times in the past. Yeah, but that is not relevant. We have a new game today. We need to start from the beginning.
Every day is a new day.
Every day is a new day. So, and if I actually think a lot about that, it's going to stop me from making my boldest and best moves moving forward. So right now, like this year is very challenging because I need to make some big moves for the company and also learn from my mistakes, because there's one reason.
All of us.
A lot of people tell me, I've trained and coached a lot of mortgage brokers throughout Canada. And they say, oh, Camilo, it's amazing because you have so much experience, right? And experience is a positive connotation. But I'll tell you what experience is. Experience is the sum of all the mistakes that I've done in 20 years.
Agreed.
So that's people. So imagine if I told you I've done 5,000 mistakes in my mortgage career. You go, oh, this guy is, maybe I don't want to do this mortgage with him. But that's what we call experience.
Yeah.
So as long as you learn from that and you don't do it again, people come to me and other brokers come to me for advice because they don't want to make the mistakes that I've already done.
And they're looking for the right person, I would say, right?
There you go.
So how does MortgagesLab differentiate itself from other mortgage brokers in BC? How is the competition with these big banks?
Competition with big banks, it comes and goes. Right now, there is a lot of challenges going on in the industry. But the best way that I can tell you that we can compete is with options and solutions. So a person comes to us. Usually, they come to us because they want to buy a home, or they want to. Maybe their rates are too high, maybe their payments are too high, maybe they want to buy an investment property. There is so many connotations, so many solutions that you can come. So The way we can compete is with solutions, is with thinking of a solution to your problem and delivering that solution to you. That's all.
Focus on
And
the
I'll-
solution.
And I'll tell you what 95% of banks and other companies in the same industry than me are focusing on. What is the lowest rate? So what is the lowest rate is the solution to one problem. We can also work on that solution. It doesn't excite me too much. The reason why it doesn't excite me too much, the question of what is the lowest rate, is because I've never seen that I've made, like people are thankful that I got them the lowest rate, but I've never seen a customer after 22 years that has done amazingly because they got the lowest rate.
Okay, I have to interrupt you a little bit.
Okay.
So what you're saying is interest rate is not the only variable to consider in order to get a mortgage deal. Am I right?
Yes, but actually is the only question that I get asked, or the number one question that myself or any of my agents or any person in the mortgage industry gets asked. What is your lowest mortgage rate?
But you're saying that's not the only variable.
That is no, of course not.
What else people that are watching us right now should pay attention?
So I'll give you two variables for me that are more important. And I'll give you two scenarios and you give me the answer, which one you want to go. Let's say you come to MortgagesLab and I say, I can guarantee you that I'm going to give you the lowest rate on your next, you have a 25-year mortgage.
Okay.
So every 5 years you come up for renewal and I'll guarantee you as a company, I don't know how anybody can do that, but let's say I can give you the lowest rate for every renewal. Are you going to be happy? Yes. We can do a mathematical calculation. So the mathematical calculation is going to be, if I can give you the lowest rate, you're going to save maybe, I don't know, 50, 70 bucks, let's say $50 a month. So over every term, you're going to be saving, let's say 50 bucks, $600 a year, $3,000
Every
year.
okay.
Okay, so over 20 years, how much is that? 60,000?
60,000.
$60,000. So if you got it right every single time, the lowest, the maximum potential benefit for you, it's $60,000. That in the current environment, that doesn't make or break anybody.
Right.
But what about if I said, hey, I cannot give you those savings, but instead I'm going to just help you buy, in those 25 years, I'm just going to help you buy one more property as an investment.
Okay.
That gets paid by, let's say, over time by the rents that you collect.
Okay.
And then you wait 25 years. What is your net worth right now? How much, let's say you bought it for $300,000 and is now worth, 25 years later, it's worth $600,000. 10 times the impact.
Right.
Because you're focusing on building wealth. You're not focusing on saving pennies.
Got it.
So that's one idea. And
It's a strategy.
I can give you tons of ideas. I can give you another idea that just happened maybe a couple of weeks ago. A person came to my office. Camilo, what was the question, Murillo?
Give me the lowest interest rates.
My bank is giving me this. And I look at the bank and I go, yes, you know what? I can give you probably the same, maybe a little bit less, but it's not significant. And I really like to help people. I want to create an impact. So it doesn't excite me.
What you're
It doesn't
telling me
excite
is like, okay, interest rates is one of the variables.
Yes.
But long term, you have many other things to evaluate.
Yeah.
Right? Because what you're saying is it's better to build assets over time.
Big time.
Right? Rather than saving 60K over 25 years, which if you split this amount of money over time in 25 years, it doesn't represent much. It might be impactful, say, hey, 60K on savings, but over 25 years, it might be not a lot, right?
It may be not a lot.
Another question that people always probably ask you is a very frequent question, I think. Which one is better, bi-weekly payments or monthly payments? So tell to people right now watching us, what is the misconception about this type of payment, these payment methods?
It's super simple. Monthly payments is what most people are used to because it matches maybe the calendar month or whatever, and you have 12 monthly payments. If you do bi-weekly, and there is a little bit of confusion because you have bi-weekly accelerated or bi-weekly non-accelerated or semi-monthly.
They make this stuff to make us confused. I think
Yes.
so.
But I just want to make it simple for people. Just take monthly, divide that monthly payment by 2, and pay it every 2 weeks.
Look at that.
Simple. Okay? If you do that, what is going to happen is that if you do the math, you'll do one more monthly payment per year.
Okay.
Because there are 52 weeks in the year or 26 bi-weekly payments. 26 bi-weekly payments divided by 2 is 13 monthly payments. So because you're paying one more without noticing, then you're prepaying your mortgage faster, which is another question that nobody asked, and I'm writing a book called Build Wealth with Debt. The number one thing that people should be focusing is not even the mortgage rate. That's the second best question. The first question that people should be asking their mortgage broker is, how can I pay my mortgage faster? Because I'll give you two options. I'll give you a mortgage for 30 years with 1% interest rate. Is that a good deal?
Apparently.
Okay, good. And I'll get a mortgage with 10% interest rate, but with a zero balance. Which one do you prefer?
What do you mean by that? Zero balance?
You don't owe anything.
I probably would prefer the first option.
With 1% interest rate?
Yes.
So
I'm not really sure if I understood the second option.
What I'm trying to say is, when you calculate
Okay.
the interest rate times the balance amount times the number of years,
Okay.
that gives you the total interest paid to the bank, to the institution.
Right.
But if you're able to shorten the number of years to a lesser amount and don't go for the full 30
And
years,
create asset as soon as possible.
you can create assets or even just pay off the mortgage faster, which the biweekly payment is the only strategy that most people talk about. I have other strategies. You end up paying less interest to the bank.
I see your point. Okay, of course, option number 2 in this case is the
That's
right
right.
answer.
The option is how to prepay it faster.
Right, because the more you can pay upfront, the less interest rates. In theory, the bank is taking less risk. Am I right? So you pay less interest rates because
Yes.
if I own you like a $10,000 and they say, "Hey, Camilo, I'll pay you tomorrow," is a thing. But if I say, "Hey, Camilo, I'll pay you $10,000 in 10 years," the risk is way higher. You're going to probably charge me more interest rates. Is that the general concept, right?
That's one of the concepts, but my point is that the longer you owe money to
The bank,
the bank or to someone,
the higher is the risk to the bank, the more interest rates they will charge you.
the rate, the more you owe money, the more money you're going to be paying to.
You're going to be paying to the bank. Fantastic. Agree.
That's it. That's it. If you are somehow able to shorten that amount, and I just did that with a client just recently. What we did was basically, and I'll show you. He had like maybe $200,000 mortgage, and he had 15 years left to pay off that loan. And I looked at his cash flow, and I looked at his assets, and I didn't focus on the interest rate. I focused on reorganizing, and I showed him how reorganizing his assets, he could pay that loan, that 200,000, from 15 years into 5 years.
Great. He would pay less interest rates indirectly.
So but this is the catch. What is the pros and the cons?
Okay, right.
So if he kept the mortgage for 15 years at a lower interest rate, he would pay more money than he was able to pay it in 5 years at a higher interest rate.
Look at that.
So and I tell them when I'm doing this analysis, I tell the person, and the difficult part, and I show them the math, because it's not only me telling them. I say, look, let's look at the amortization schedule. It's basically a table showing you all the money that goes to principal, interest, and whatever. And we just add all the interest, which is the money that you're paying to the institution, right? It's an asset for the bank. And then we calculate, and he could see clearly, and he understood that by rearranging.
Fantastic.
But he ended up paying a higher mortgage rate, which is not very...
attractive, let's see.
Yeah, people don't say, hey, my mortgage broker helped me with a higher interest rate.
Right. Yeah, but the plan, the strategy behind says a lot, because at the end you're going to pay less, right?
He was super happy.
I totally understood your point. So I hope you guys from home also could understand. It took me a while to process everything, because it's totally new for me. And I imagine people who are watching this podcast, it's very insightful and valuable information, right? It's totally different perspective to look at your mortgage statement. And people, I truly believe after this podcast, they can contact you, because that's a kind of analytical way that most banks, for example, they don't give you these ideas, right? They don't show you that. And I imagine a lot of young families in Canada are having a hard time right now buying their first home,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So prices are super high. The demand is super high. Interest rates are going up and down. We never know what's going to happen. In your opinion, what is the biggest challenge right now for people who want to buy their first home? What is the simple steps families can take to get closer to owning their first home in Canada?
Okay, so...
Give us 3 tips. 3 steps.
Okay, so the tip number 1, in my opinion, which I love this, because when I was the past president of the Canadian Mortgage Broker Association, we did a lot of work on this, and we didn't get anywhere.
Okay.
but now, so I'll tell you what, help is in the way. What I mean help is in the way is that the main reason why people or younger generation have issues with this is because the Canadian government didn't have systems to allow for builders to build fast enough.
You're talking about license, paperwork.
Yes. And so there was not enough supply to meet the demand. So when you study basic economics, you know that if the demand is high and there's not a lot of supply, prices go
up.
That's what happens in Canada, in most markets. Now, the reason why I'm telling you that helps in the way is because our current Prime Minister has announced that part of his plan is to massively invest in increasing the supply in Canada. And they started doing that. By the way, if people are watching this, there's a huge opportunity right now, and they may have received a lot of ads and everything, because municipalities right now are allowing to increase density, which means that you have a home in a lot that you own for 50 years. You can use that lot not for a single family, but you can convert it into a duplex, triplex, fourplex, or fifth, so you can have a small 5-unit building.
Got it.
Right? And that is increasing supply. So they are trying to increase the number of apartments, of homes available in Canada, and that will make the prices drop or not increase enough, so the salaries, as they keep increasing, can keep up with that.
Perfect.
And that's actually everything else. If that gets solved, everything else is easy.
So what you're saying is, for first home buyers, that's let's say, the lights at the end of the funnel, right? The tunnel.
Yeah.
So people can see at the end of the tunnel that is some probably opportunity coming soon.
If our Prime Minister continues with that plan, and all the provinces and all the municipalities gets on board on the same on the same boat, then new generations are going to be okay because the supply is going to be there.
So young people, take it easy. It's gonna be way easier for you guys.
Yes, and by the way, I recently wrote an article facing my views on politics, and the publication that I published said, Camilo, you cannot talk about politics. It's like so I'm not saying anything good or bad about politics. I'm just saying that with that policy that the government is implementing, there is a lot of younger generation will benefit from that. Because
I totally agree.
House is going to be affordable. Besides that, any other tip that I can give you is peanuts regarding to that, because it all comes to affordability.
Right.
I 2 years ago, I even had conversations with clients and friends saying, if I would land in Canada right now as an electrical engineer, which is a very good profession, and I would come and live in Vancouver or Toronto, which is the major cities for my type of work, I would not be as happy as I was when I came here, because the ratio of income versus value of the properties is too much.
Yeah.
You have to spend all your money to be able to find a place to live. And not even a luxurious place, just a place with windows and doors.
Exactly.
So that's wrong.
It is.
And it's fixable. And the Canadian government right now is taking steps to do it. When we tried as an association and with the president, nobody, they actually were blaming other parties. They didn't want to confront the problem,
right?
Which was lack of supply. They were saying that because of that, and then the government tried to implement other things. With all respect, which I think are wrong. For example, they taxed real estate to death. If I mention the number of taxes related to real estate, there's at least like 10. They're running out of options on how more to tax real estate. And that was an effort to stop the demand instead of looking at the supply side.
Right. They were not tackling the root cause of the issue.
Yeah, they were not. They were trying to put band-aids everywhere.
They ignored for so long that the prices right now are totally unaffordable to people. So
yes.
Now they realized, oh, okay, maybe we should make the process of giving a license for construction or new developments more, let's say, more accessible, right? And easy to be implemented. But it should be done a long time ago.
It should be done. And then they don't have to ban foreigners to buy in Canada, because there's so many people who love to buy a property in Canada, and that creates employment, that creates wealth for the country, that brings dollars to the economy.
They also pay taxes.
It's a win-win for everybody, for them and for us. And they can maybe reverse and open up, because now the supply side is looked after.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like the main problem was neglecting the root cause of the problem caused many other issues.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Something that it could be fixed, let's say, 10 years ago. Right?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, that's a very good point. But now I would like to talk about something that you also like.
What is
It's called social media.
Okay.
So if you don't know Camilo is a superstar. By the way,
Thank you.
how people can find you on social media?
Just go to my Instagram, for example, Camilo Rodriguez Official. And then...
Camilo Rodriguez Official.
Yeah, CamiloRodriguez.official.
.official. Okay.
It's my handle, yes.
I'll put your tag in the description below so people
Thank
can find you.
Or LinkedIn.
So,
LinkedIn, I really love LinkedIn as well.
do you like it? I
yes.
also love LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn, I love it.
Great. So how has social media transformed the way mortgage brokers connect with clients? And which platform have been most effective for your business? You just mentioned LinkedIn, right? If you compare how you used to work in the past, mortgage brokers did not have access to people as big banks. But right now, you have something called social media. How does social media contribute to your success?
A lot. And in my opinion, right now, social media is like a tool. Some people say social media is bad, social media is doing this. In my opinion, it's just a tool. it depends on how you use it. I always said, and again, I'm going to reference to my book again, and you will see, you'll be one of the
You're
first to
gonna
get
talk about that.
the copy of my book, Building Wealth with Debt. I talk about, is a knife good or bad?
Right.
Well, a knife, if you use it to hurt someone, is a bad thing. But surgeons use knives all the time to heal people and to perform operations and to save the life of a person. So it's a good thing.
Profound.
So it's not the knife itself, it's the use. So social media, it's amazing depending on the use that you give it. If you are a young person, let's say 25 years or younger, let's say even 30 years or younger, okay? I'm gonna tell you with the knife how you can kill someone and how you can help someone. And you're watching social media more than an hour a day, you're hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself. Because it's short, we don't have to talk about this, but it's short form of content, and you don't get deep into any subject. You get very shallow on very many subjects that affect your thinking. But I'm not going to go into those details because I'm not an expert on that. But you can also use social media in a good way to spread great ideas into people's minds, which is what I'm trying to do. And to give good information to the right people at the right time. And to challenge yourself. I am, so you can guess how old I am by the number of years of experience that I have, right? So my number one thing was most people, they don't want to change to do new things. And my son Pablo and sometimes my daughter Camila tell me in Spanish, viejito, which means old guy or little old guy, right? They say it with love. But that start make me think, am I getting old? Because I'm 54 years old. Am I getting old or not? I don't feel old, but I realize for me the definition of being old means two things. One, what is my energy level? If my energy level is high, regardless of my age, I'm still young. And the second one is how willing I am to change in my environment, because my environment keeps changing. And I've realized that all people, number one, have low energy levels. So I'm always trying to, like we've talked about, swimming 1,000 meters every few days.
Right.
That keeps my energy level up, and exercising, eating well, sleeping well, 8 hours, whatever. And the other thing so my energy level is also always very high. And second is my ability to change. So right now, I've been teaching social media to younger people. And I go, how can this happen? They should be teaching me because I didn't live with this, but because I am willing to put the effort to learn social media or AI, it gives me a boost of energy and it makes me stay young because I am always learning new things.
How does AI contribute to your daily basis now?
Oh, I love it. I love it because I'll give you one example of a problem that I was never able to solve as a mortgage broker with so many years of experience, whatever.
Great.
And now I'm able to solve it. Okay?
Let us know.
So most people, Murillo, only look at their mortgage statement every 5 years when the mortgage is coming up for renewal, and they do a little bit of shopping. Compare rates and whatever, and they look for the cheapest rate and they renew, and off you go for another 5 years. That's usually what the path is. Or sometimes when they're in trouble, maybe they were in the wrong type of product and their payments went up or something like that, they are forced to look into that. But besides that, nobody looks at that. And I always wanted to have the time to look at my clients' statements or mortgage statements and see if there was ways I could optimize their mortgage for their benefit. Because I'm really thankful that they play the business with me, even though they may not be my clients. I really would like to help that person save money, whatever. We can all understand and we can all agree that banks well, unless you own shares of a bank, but banks don't need more money. They have enough money. They are well taken care of. The big five, they're well taken care of. But a family, dad and 2 kids, if you can help them build some wealth, I'm all for it. Okay. So I could never take the time to review the statements and do calculations and see if there was. Now I can, because I've been training bots and software to do that for me. So if anybody on this podcast is willing to take a risk with me and give me very riskless proposition, give me your mortgage statement, I would be able to do some calculations for you and stay with you in contact and do calculations to see if there is opportunities, and don't wait for 5 years if we can do some savings today.
Guys, what you're saying is huge, Camilo, because you prepare and you trained AI bots to take a look at a statement, a mortgage statement, and tell us the advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons. That's what I understand. And you have this in a very automated way that when I share my mortgage statement with you, so your AI bot that was prepared by you will be able to tell me, hey, that's a good deal, but you have an opportunity here and there. Am I right?
100%. And right now we're testing that. So if you're willing to contact us, we'll send you a link where you can upload your mortgage statement. A bot is going to read it. So because even that, Murillo, this is so amazing. Even for a company like MortgagesLab, if you send me your mortgage statement and for me to put this into an Excel sheet, which is the previous technology, it would take me, I need about, from your mortgage statement, I need about maybe 10 points of data. And every mortgage statement has different formats and whatever. And there is dozens and dozens of mortgage companies. So for me to take the time to look at the data, even if I'm very fast, it's going to take me sometimes half an hour just to input the data. And right now we can do that in 5 seconds.
Look at that.
It may not be perfect, by the way, but I need people who help me test it. But that you will see the information, and then you can request a change.
Great.
And then we can start on a simple way to review your details. A lot of the messages that we're going to send you are going to show you that there is nothing to do. That's okay. But we are looking after you, and we're reviewing that on a regular basis. Not every 5 years. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
That's awesome. So I'm impressive, how you keep up, with all these new technologies, how much you explore social media, the content that you post, extremely educational. I personally speaking, watch all your videos.
Thank you.
I learn a lot from you, especially in this field, that most people, they prefer to pay someone to take a look at everything, but also is extremely important because they don't teach this kind of stuff at school, right? So when you have a professional sharing their experience with random people like me on social media, is such a valuable asset, right? And people should take more attention to that kind of stuff. Social media is also a good source of entertainment. I totally agree.
Yes.
Right? It's good to be there and see what's going on around the globe with your favorite artists, for example. But guys, great opportunity to follow Camilo and check this extremely, let's say, educational content, because definitely can change how much you have been paid in your house, right?
Yeah, 100%. And real estate still, it's a big, big part of the economy, not only for Canada, but for every single person. I look at financial statements from people, like their finances every single day, dozens of them. And where is people are able to get more assets or wealth? Big percentage is real estate.
Real estate, 100%.
There's other asset classes and everything else. Businesses is another one that is big, but it's different.
Real estate is a thing. Real estate in stocks,
yes.
I would say.
Yes.
So if you want to get rich, contact Camilo.
No, I'm not saying that.
So he's going to save you.
And I have to say this because of regulation. I'm not an investment advisor. I'm not an accountant. I'm just a mortgage broker that wants to do good for people.
And most important, you do not follow any bank's rules, right? So you are an independent mortgage broker. Am I right?
I have to follow all the bank rules.
You have to follow the bank rules, but you
But
are
I
not
can
representing
disclose. I can disclose. I represent the client,
the client,
not the
bank.
Not
So,
the lender, yes.
rephrasing what I said, you represent the client, not the bank. So you're gonna give the best option to the client, decide whatever he wants. Am I right?
Yes, whatever. I wouldn't say whatever he wants. I would try to give the best advice we can to give them whatever is best for them. Because sometimes what is best for them is not what they want.
You are the professional, man. Okay.
Thank you, amigo.
That's the final part. I just would like to understand with you, where do you see MortgagesLab 5 years from now? What's coming next? You said you have a book coming, Building Wealth with Debt. You're going to expand your company soon, and you're going to talk about that. What else is coming next?
It's very difficult to see the future. I love to try to guess what the future is going to look like. But I actually think that I think everybody knows where the future is going to be. Nobody knows what path they're going to take, but everybody knows where the future is going to be. If you look in the last 20 years, we've had so many changes that people take for granted. When I came to Canada in 1997, the internet was starting. The internet.
Look at that.
And look, right now, nobody can live without the internet.
Now, nobody can live without AI.
Now, then it was social media. So, and those are industries that changed the whole way we did business. And now social media is hyper relevant, but they have a challenger technology, which is AI. I am astonished to see that 3 years ago, I could not live without searching in Google. Now I can honestly say that I use more AI than Google. And I go, maybe AI is using Google, which is also, I don't want to minimize that, but I could never think that another technology could overcome a giant like Google. In fact, Google right now has to invest billions into that technology, because otherwise the previous business model is dead.
They noticed 30% less Google searches in the last few months.
Yes.
So it's a lot.
Yes. They know that. They know that. They need to. And imagine if a big business like Google is changing their business model that has made them billions, what needs to happen at a small business like MortgagesLab? I had a meeting with my team members this morning. We have a daily meeting every day at 8:30, and I told them that we were starting MortgagesLab all over again today.
Awesome.
Like, it's almost like a blank sheet. We have a lot of experience, we have a lot of things, but we need. I will not be able to succeed looking at the past. You can only succeed looking at what you're going to be doing next, right? If I keep saying, well, this is the way I used to do it, I'm not going to last too long.
I totally agree.
I'm not going to last too long. Yeah.
It's the concept thinking outside of the box all the time.
Now there is not a box anymore.
There is no limit.
It's amazing, but there's not a box. To the point that I think one of the major shifts that human beings need to understand right now, we all have to go through that, is that human beings as a race have been living in a world of scarcity. Scarcity for resources, scarcity for everything. To the point that big things are being done because you have that in your brain without even noticing. For example, tariffs. That is every year we have a different topic. Like we have COVID, we have inflation, we have interest rates going up, whatever. This year is tariffs, so we all talk about tariffs. So even tariffs, with all respect, I'm not going to say if it's right or wrong, but it has a scarcity mindset. If you see the discussion, it's we are going to negotiate our trade again. Negotiate, which means I'm going to try to get more from you than you get from me. And that underneath has the mentality there is not enough. So we need to, I want more of the share versus you, right? Versus what is happening right now, it's we live in a world of abundance. Everything is getting cheaper right now because of AI. Everything can be achieved because of AI. Diseases that couldn't be solved will be solved very soon because we have an entity that so far we can control. That's another topic. That will solve the problem for us. So that entity can solve problems not only in health, but in finances, in everything. And the world economy, if you take a snapshot today, take your iPhone and take a picture of all the money in the world today, and go, let's wait 5 years. You will see that amount of money will be, I don't know, triple. And so if right now we all can live with this amount of money, and I'm telling you that in 3 years or 4 years, the amount of money worldwide is going to be triple, that means that do I need to negotiate this contract and get 10 cents more than before? Or we go, holy crap, let's grab a part of the pie that is coming up.
Right.
So that's the shift, the mindset of abundance versus scarcity. And even myself, I was born and raised in a world of scarcity. So I'm still in my mind fighting those scarcity things. Like, what is my lowest rate? That's
right.
A scarcity mindset. How do I build a triplex, or how do I buy 2 more properties? That's an abundance mindset. That doesn't mean that you cannot do both, but you have to take a path. Do I want to get abundant, or do I want to focus on scarcity?
What you're saying is stop saving money and start thinking about how to make more money.
I read I don't know if it was a self-help book or a financing book. I've read so many books that I lost track. Where did I get this from? You said you cannot reduce your expenses to zero. There is a point that you can reduce your expenses to a level, and then after that level is just difficult. But you can increase your income. What is the limit on increasing your income or your assets? There's no limit.
No limit.
So would you rather spend your time where? In something that has no limit?
Right.
And if you double, let's say you have a certain level of income or expenses, and you're able to reduce those expenses in half. Okay, does your life improve? Possibly, yes. But what about if you take your existing level of income and you double it?
That's it.
How would you be best in which position? I would argue that I think it would be better in the second position, even if your expenses didn't reduce a little bit, even if they increased a little bit more.
I see your point. That's a fantastic comparison.
My apologies. I just share my opinions and my words.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. So the last question, I would like one single advice that you would give to someone thinking about starting their own business in Canada. Not necessarily in the mortgage brokerage niche, but for anyone who would like to open or, let's say, start their own business in Canada. What is the first and unique piece of advice?
My piece of advice for somebody starting a business, it's the following, is that because of social media, having your own business I think is overrated. Like, people say, well, look at all these people that have made it. But I'm telling you, I didn't make those statistics. 97% of businesses within 10 years fail. That tells you how hard it is. Right? Even any business. I used to, when I came to Canada, one of my favorite companies, I don't know if you knew of that company, was Blockbuster. Huge American company. You rent movies. I was alone here, so what I would do on a Friday, I would go to Blockbuster, spend 1 hour looking at films because I didn't want to go home, and then I pick one, and then I go and watch it home, right? Because I was alone. Anyways, that business doesn't exist anymore. It's part of the 97%. Okay, maybe in the US they have different statistics, but it's going to be something similar. So what I'm telling you is, if it's not in your blood to become a business owner, maybe that's not your path. You can be successful many other ways. And how do you know if it's in your blood? Like me, I couldn't sleep. I wanted to do it, and I couldn't, and I wanted. And ask me if it's hard to be a business owner. I have to learn to like pain. I have to learn, and I found ways to like pain. Sometimes I go and I say, shoot, this is really, and I don't like to do it, and I do it, and I go, well, Camilo, this is how I train myself. Well, Camilo, most people wouldn't want to do this because of the pain. So you're doing it. That's why you possibly have the chance to staying alive or growing further with your business or whatever you're doing. But reality is it's painful. And you need to learn, you need to understand that you're going to fail, and failing is okay as long as you learn the lesson. And you keep failing, and you will keep learning and finding ways. And at the end, you become like one of my favorite mentors, Warren Buffett, that he has done the same thing so many times. The reason why he's so successful is because he looks at a company and he can pinpoint really fast all the ways that it's not gonna work. So he minimizes all the risks. That's called experience. And finally, when one in a blue moon comes his way, this is the one. Look, all the thing that can go wrong is not going wrong for this company. I'm going to invest in this one. That's how you become a billionaire. But you can only do that when he did it for 35 years or 50 years straight, and learning and making mistakes and putting modes in place so you don't make those mistakes all over again. So my best advice, again, if it's in your blood, you will know it because you will do it.
Fantastic.
But if it's not, don't think that because you're not, then you're not successful. Yes, you're successful. You can invent so many things. You can partner with somebody. You can help somebody build something else where you have an equity position, and you don't have to take all the risk.
Agreed.
Right?
Yep.
So
100%.
I was super shocked to see people who nobody knows, who were early employees of companies. They're millionaires, and they didn't have to take the risks that the owner took, right?
Yes.
Because they took it and they helped him build the business. And what is wrong with that? Nothing. Sometimes I think that's a better path.
That's a topic for another discussion.
That's a topic for another one.
So thank you so much, Camilo.
Amigo,
I really appreciate that.
Thank you for those amazing questions.
We are going to definitely book another session soon because I'm sure people will come back with many questions for you. So guys, follow Camilo on social media. Camilo, again, was a pleasure to have you here. I hope to see you again. And soon you're going to talk about your book that is coming up soon. Was a pleasure. Thank you for your time. You guys stay tuned. This episode probably is going to be posted Wednesday next week. Stay tuned and we're going to keep in touch. Thank you, Camilo.
Thank you really very much for the invitation.
Thank you.
What makes the world go round is top about that cha-ching sound like we count bills by the pound is we can't stop cause we live it by the money. What makes the world go round is top about that cha-ching sound like we count bills by the pound is cause we live it by the money. Don't stop, rock the block, cause once we get started then we just can't stop. And when you see the Lamborghini then you know what's up, because cheap is cheap and the talk is talk, yeah. Now we chillin' on a cruise ship, take a jet to Korea, how we do it. All the players are playing the game, head is looking lame, so we started getting money and you know we stay paid.